welcome back to NES Revisited Episode 12. We've got 4 very different style games to look at for the month of June and July of 1987. So let's go check those out. Let's check out the Side Pocket. This Data East title allows you to play pool for the first time on the Nintendo Entertainment System. Starting up Side Pocket, you can play single or 2-player modes. For single player, you get Pocket Game and Training. Pocket Game has you play your way through various stages where if you beat the point total in one game, you can become the champ of that class. Besides the City class, each will have a trick shot you must hit along with a class up chance. If you don't make the shots, you have to try the class again. Your total score does not count for champ points, so you'll have to go for consecutive syncs along with numeric sequences to get as much points as possible. Underneath your score, you'll see a bunch of circles that change in size. They represent your lives. If your cue ball falls into a pocket, called a scratch, or if you don't sink anything, you will lose some life. You can also alter your shot by holding B and moving the dot on the cue. You can perform a jump shot over a ball if you're feeling brave. You can gain more life by sinking a ball into a pocket with a star inside. Every once in a while, you'll get a chance at a super ball. It usually picks the highest number ball remaining, and if you successfully connect to it, the cue ball will fly around fast, giving you a chance at knocking more down until you either scratch, or when the cue naturally stops. If you scratch, you don't lose any life though. When there's only one ball left, it will flash the word zone on the screen. Knock the ball in for extra life, or enter the zone with the cue ball to play a bonus game, where you can earn more life. That's about it for Pocket Game. It's a super hard game, but with a ton of trial and error and practice, you can get pretty far each time you play the game. Luckily, there's a training mode which will show you examples of different shots for you to practice. This is a great way to figure out the controls in practice. Now for a simulation pool game, Side Pocket is pretty decent all the way around. It's the kind of game that rewards practice, so you must understand the controls in order to succeed. Unfortunately, the physics doesn't feel natural at all. During a break, it's like hitting a brick, except the cue ball doesn't budge. The dotted line that tells you where you're aiming is not helpful, and moves in large increments. There are shots that you literally can't make unless you adjust for the angle with some English, and of course you have no idea if it will work, so it's usually not worth it. Now this game has a lot of flaws, but it is fun once you start to get the hang of it. There's plenty of stages to keep you busy, and if you're a fan of pool, this was a great pickup for the time. It's unfortunate that there's no AI for a second player mode, which means no traditional 8-ball or 9-ball games in single player mode. It's still a good game, but it just doesn't satisfy my urge to play a real game of pool. Alright, kicking off the first of 8 releases in July, we have Athletic World. Developed by Bandai, it was released as Family Fun Fitness. The license would eventually be bought out by Nintendo, where they rebranded the same game by removing all the Family Fun Fitness labels from the box. They even renamed the pad itself the Power Pad. Of course, the title screen still shows that original branding. Similar to track and field, you get various events to compete in using the Power Pad. Thankfully, there's a training mode for each event. In case you're wondering, I'm not using a Power Pad for this video. Kicking off with the first event, you have hurdles. Pretty self-explanatory here. On the bottom of the screen, you'll see a turtle walking from start to goal. This is just used to show your time limit. Animal Trail has you run while dodging wild boars. Shifting from the middle paths to the left or right will help you avoid them. The Dark Tunnel adds difficulty by adding ramps, where you'll have to speed up to get over. Hop-a-log is a trickier challenge where you run on the middle platform while hopping on one leg either left or right on the pad. Rafting combines the left and right movement with jumping and crouching. To crouch, you just hit the top 2 circles while standing on the center. After you complete the event, you'll get a rating based on different attributes along with some advice on how to improve. Next, you'll get an official Bandai certificate to serve as a reminder of how well or poorly you did. Playing Expert Mode increases the obstacles you see on the course. The second round is particularly brutal if you're up for the challenge. So that's it for Athletic World. Introducing the soon-to-be renamed Power Pad, you can get exercise and play games at the same time. I didn't use the Power Pad to play this game, so I shouldn't comment on how well it works in that regard. I can tell you that this game definitely lacks when it comes to challenge variety. I like the hop-a-log and rafting challenges, but everything else is just run and dodge. I'm sure they could have been more creative. They only made 10 games that I'm aware of that use the Power Pad, but I'm not sure this one is worth much replay value. Instead of a scoring system, they should have used a timestamp instead. This way you could try and beat your previous scores. I'm afraid Athletic World just falls flat on this one. Let's check out Kid Icarus. Finally, some title music, and catchy too. Produced by Nintendo, Kid Icarus combines a ton of different elements into one game. The platforming starts up with vertical scrolling. It also allows you to wrap around the stage's left and the right side to move around. The hearts in this game serve as currency to buy items. You start equipped with a bow and an arrow. You play the game as a character named Pit. Similar to Ice Climber, when you jump, so does the stage, so you'll die if you fall down below. Also, pressing down will also cause you to fall through any platforms you can normally jump through. You get a password system and each stage is all or nothing. During a stage you'll find various items. The harp will turn all enemies into hammers for a certain amount of time, which you can use later in the game. Kid Icarus is filled with tons of items and enemies, so looking through the instruction manual is a must. Luckily, buying this game brand new, it comes with a 24-page instruction manual filled with useful information you'll need to play this game. Unfortunately, this game is really difficult for beginners. You'll spend most of your time trying to make it to the end of the first few vertical stages. Endurance is your health bar. You don't get much to start off with, so you'll struggle to stay alive, assuming you don't die from falling first. If you see a door on the way, it may have either a choose a pot, get an item game, an ambush from enemies, or a shop to spend hearts. You'll also come across rooms where you can get an upgrade for free, or sometimes the testing grounds room. Survive that and you'll get a choice for a power-up. For instance, the fire sets enemies on fire, the bow increases speed and arrows go further, and the protective crystal protects you from attacks. You won't be able to use any of these until you power up, which happens at the end of the stages. Once you get past checkpoints, you'll end up at a fortress. Think of this as the 2D platforming version of a Zelda dungeon. You have to navigate your way through the fortress until you find and defeat the fortress gatekeepers. If you happen to get hit by the eggplant wizard, he'll turn your head into an eggplant. This is the most annoying thing ever. You have no choice but to find the fortress hospital and have the curse removed, since you will not be able to attack until then. Find a room like this and you can heal up. You get a map early on, but it's useless until you purchase items like pencils and torches that mark the map. Luckily, Google can fill the void if you're having trouble. When you make it to the boss, the AI and collision detection is really wonky, so just do your best to avoid the attacks and have at it. Oftentimes you can get behind it and stun it with your shots, making it pretty easy to win. Grab the treasure and you're off to the next stage. If you power up, you'll be able to use any weapons you have stored. At 2-2, I was able to unlock my second weapon, give my extended shot of fireball power up too. As you can tell, this game is huge. Graphics, music, and gameplay are really solid. There's a ton of areas to explore, and with the password system, you most likely will come back to it another day. The difficulty of the platforming takes some time to get used to, along with the shooting mechanics. There's a ton more this game offers that I won't get into, but this one is clearly worth picking up in 87. If you have the patience and determination to keep playing, you'll eventually succeed. You'll find that the vertical scrolling is probably the biggest hurdle to get over, that you're constantly platforming and in danger of dying. Kid Icarus isn't for everyone, but if you're up for the challenge, give this one a playthrough. Last but definitely not least, we have the Legend of Zelda. This is where it all began. I can still remember the first time I saw this game. The music, graphics, weapons, it was eye candy to an 8-year-old. From the gold cartridge to the maps it included, you knew this game was going to be epic. When you start this game for the first time, you're greeted with a select screen. Finally, we can save our games instead of obnoxious password systems. Enter your name and begin your quest. If you aren't aware, beating The Legend of Zelda unlocks a second quest which changes the locations of the dungeons and is more difficult to play. If you want to jump right into it, name your file Zelda and you'll see a sword next to your name if it worked. Starting off, the first thing you do is grab your wooden sword. One great thing about The Legend of Zelda is that it came with a partial map and hints book, so you weren't playing this game completely blind. If you've ever played any Zelda game in your life, and there's a lot spanning every system created by Nintendo, you'll recognize where it all began. There are 8 dungeons scattered in Hyrule that you must find, beat the boss, and collect the Triforce piece. Each dungeon will have keys to find by killing off enemies, a compass to help locate the boss. Sometimes you'll need to push a specific block to open up a door or stairs. You'll also find the map, which is the most useful item to find as it gives you the layout. This combined with the compass can be extremely helpful for you if you don't have a real map to look at. Make sure you pick up the weapons because you'll need them at some point in the game. Level 1, you get the boomerang. You can use the boomerang to stun your enemies, but it won't go very far. You'll eventually get a magic boomerang that goes full screen. When you beat the dungeon, you get a full heart container which will increase your health 1 full heart. Snag the Triforce and essentially rinse and repeat another 8 times. Once you do, you can enter Dungeon 9 and defeat the game. Once you get bombs and a few other items, you'll be able to find spare heart containers in Hyrule to further boost your life. Once you get to a certain amount of hearts, you can upgrade your sword twice. As usual, keep blazing through the levels collecting weapons and solving puzzles. Before you take on that final dungeon, make sure you stock up on rupees for your arrows. Buy the blue ring for taking half damage, the shield of course, and revisit any dungeons that allow you to expand your bomb bag. Also, buy a red potion for healing. Equipped with a map, this won't be too difficult. Without one, you'll eventually get lost and die, only to have to repurchase your red potions and start over again. The first time I beat this game, I created my own map on a piece of paper. I didn't have the luxury of the internet in '88, the year I probably owned this game. The Legend of Zelda is definitely one of the best games created on the NES. This game has it all. Open world exploration, items to collect, and challenging dungeons. And with the second quest, you'll have plenty of reasons to come back to this game. Now we all know that Zelda was a must-have in 1987, but does this game hold up today? Absolutely. Luckily, Nintendo has no problem regurgitating this game onto every possible system. Among the list, Game Boy Advance, GameCube, The Legend of Zelda Collection, and of course, every virtual console available. If you haven't played this game, you're missing out on a true NES classic. It may not be 3D like Ocarina of Time or Breath of the Wild, but this game is still fun to play, and I often beat this game every couple of months for fun. Glad I got to finish with Zelda. I've beaten this game so many times throughout the years, and it's still fun to play today. In the next episode, we got 4 more games to look at for the month of July, so make sure you're subscribed, hit that like button, and I'll see you next time.